Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ampliverse Book Club. Woo, 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 woo. This month, we read the novel, a little ditty called Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Michael Crichton. And I'm here. Let's introduce all of your book club hosts today using pull quotes from our book today. So I am yours truly, an edge of the chair adventure, RJ. Hello, that's me. We've got an undeniable narrative energy, Allie. The story just constantly unfolds. Frighteningly real, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. And finally, we've got a special guest for this book. We've got complex concepts in simple terms. It's Rhino. Hi, Rhino. Welcome to the club.
Hello.
Yes. So today, like we said, we have read Michael Crichton's, just a little book that we picked up called Jurassic Park. And very excited. A little known, yes. And we're very excited to talk about it. So we'll get started right away and just do a round of first feels and just kind of talk about how we generally liked the book and how we came to know Jurassic Park, the world before the book or as we experienced it. I can go first. I obviously, just from knowing pop culture, Jurassic Park existed. I'd have never seen the movie, to the behest of the people in this club, Catherine and Ryan. Mostly because I was such a scaredy cat growing up. I made it a point to avoid every single scary movie because I happened to watch Twister when I was very young. And it truly scared the shit out of me that I never wanted to watch any movie that had any sort of conflict where people could die. I was truly terrified of it.
I mean, the opening of that movie is horrifying when the dad gets sucked up out of the storm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So I have always
I gotta watch Twister.
Oh my.
Allie's like, that sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah, I will never go to Wichita, Kansas ever because of that movie.
Okay.
When my family
F5 comes through.
When my family told me that we were moving to America, I literally was like, it's nowhere with twisters and tornadoes, right? Phoenix is safe, right? I got no idea.
You live in the Midwest now.
I know. And that's it's just the irony. Although tornadoes don't really hit close to the lake. It stays pretty close to inland of the state. So I'm pretty good. I'll be fine.
Just on the cusp of Tornado Alley.
Yes, just right at the end. I think the worst that could happen here is when the ice caps melt and the lake just completely.
I mean, you're in a high rise at least.
But at least I'm in a high rise. Yeah. Absolutely. So
at that point, we'll visit the classic water world for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was my first real, and I've ridden the rides at Universal Studios. So that was kind of the most of my Jurassic Park experience. This is my first time reading the book. Very fast, very quick-paced book. Very shocked at how fast I got to read it during the weekend. Right to the minute, right before we finished this, started this recording, I finished it. And I felt like this is also my real first foray into science fiction reading too. So I was very kind of amazed at the level of detail just in general and the fact that I kept up. So I would be curious if I read this younger, if I would have kept up just as much. So
I tried to read it in second grade, or not second grade, because it came out while I was in second grade. No. Yeah. This movie came out in 1993. So I was in second grade. I did try to read the book when I was a little kid, and I was like, you know how when it starts and it's all about the back and forth with the scientists. And I remember being a little kid and just it took me hours to get through one page. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to finish this. Yeah. So I listened to it on tape.
Yeah, I definitely had that same kind of reaction of wow, it's so I don't know if any of you have read Carrie, but Stephen King kind of writes it in a way of it's almost just reporting the news that happened in the event. Yes. There's a lot of that.
It's a lot shorter though.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I think I would have had a hard time reading this when I was here. I couldn't even read Harry Potter Goblet of Fire when I was little.
You can't even read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire now, RJ.
It's too much. It's too much. So yeah, that was kind of like my general take. But I know we've got big fans of Jurassic Park in this chat. So, Catherine, Rhino, do you want to share your stories?
Sure. This was the first PG-13 movie I saw when I was a kid.
Wow.
And I was quite young to be seeing it. I want to say I was like 6, maybe. I was 3 when it came out. So I was like 6 or 7 when I saw the movie, and I was just enamored. I loved it. And so I've kind of always loved Jurassic Park. It's one of those classics. Like I have, you have your list of movies that you rewatch that kind of feel like a warm blanket. Because it's just like it's like a memory of your childhood, and it's kind of hilarious that this like almost horror movie is like that for me. But it's like
for a lot of kids, it's like
I mean, this one it's like The Mummy and Indiana Jones and Star Wars, like they're all on that same level for me. And so so I actually didn't read this book until right before the pandemic. I decided I was going to try to get into audiobooks, which really worked, as you all know. And I'm super into them now. And I listened to it on a drive to visit my parents who live 11 hours away. And I was like, I loved being able to compare and contrast the film with the book. Like I really, I enjoyed that. And then I kind of went on a spiral where I was doing that all the time. Like I read a bunch of Stephen King so that I could then watch the movies. And so I love me some Jurassic Park. First PG-13 movie. And my tattoo appointment has been rescheduled to May 31st.
Oh, you're getting a Jurassic Park tattoo?
Yeah, Catherine promised that it would be ready by the recording, but it
Well, my tattoo artist had a medical emergency, okay?
We'll forgive that, I guess.
Yeah, right. She's excused. So I think I was going to keep it a secret, but I still don't know exactly. I just told her what I want and she's going to do it, but it's going to be Dr. Sattler, which is Laura Dern's character. And some paleo botanist type leaves from the Jurassic, and a velociraptor, and the words "woman inherits the earth," which is not in the book.
Yeah,
thank you. Not in the book, only the movie.
Best parts of the movie where they're like looking out the window, and he's like, "Man, or God creates man." Man destroys God, or what is I forget how it goes.
God creates man.
We did it.
Wait, no. God creates dinosaurs. God creates man.
Man destroys God.
Yeah.
Or something. I forget what he says.
God destroying dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs destroy man, but yeah.
It's God. God creates dinosaurs. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. And then Laura Dern's
dinosaurs
character goes,
eat man.
Dinosaurs eat man. Woman inherits the earth. And so that was going to be the whole thing. But I was like, that's too many words. Yeah. What a sleigh. It was too many words. So I stuck to just woman inherits the earth. So.
That's perfect. I love that.
Thank you.
What about you, Rhino?
I had to go over to show you. I have my little, I called it my little sexy Jeff Goldblum, my Dr.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
Oh my gosh. Today's episode featuring props.
Yeah, I'm like, also Kim sent me this recently. It's this like teeny tiny, you can see it's got a raptor on it and like dinosaurs etched into the back. And now I'm just you open it and then you do a little.
Whoa. Oh, it's the theme song.
Yeah, but I'm not at the right part.
When he says, welcome to Jurassic Park.
I get out and I'm like,
ooh, do the doors open?
So cute. I love that.
The reason I thought about this. Hey, girl. The reason I thought about this is because.
Oh, there he is.
I didn't know that. Oh,
you're
my God.
Jeff Goldblum.
Oh my God.
Fun fact, I got my job at Universal because I didn't want to pay full price for this bag.
They actually had one that was like Blue's head too. I saw that was cute, and like I almost bought another Jurassic Park shirt when I was there the other day because now they have ones and it says Biosyn on it, and I was like, oh my God, Biosyn is the other competing genetic thing
it's
in
the Dodgson
book,
lab,
and they don't talk about
Dodgson.
Dodgson.
We got Dodgson here.
We got Dodgson here.
Damn it!
See, no one cares. Yeah, but that character is in the movie for a second, like one fifth of a.
I mean, he was in this book too for a second.
No, he comes back in the second one. He's a main character in the second one.
The actor, though, I think, is like a sexual predator.
I believe he is too. Actually, yeah, something went on with that.
That's
Unfortunately. But I mean, it fits with the character, I think, because
that's true.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's not great, but I remember going to see this movie. Like my aunt and her best friend took me and my brother, who was a year older than me, and it had come out that summer when I was going from second grade into third grade, and I didn't know what to expect. But I had seen Land Before Time, so I was a dinosaur fan.
You had
at this
some,
point.
You had
I had some
familiarity.
Dinosaur. I used to carry around actually before this, like a little book. It was like the size of a trade paperback or something like that, and it was a dinosaur encyclopedia picture thing to always. I remember carrying it in second grade and being like, "Oh, I'll tell you the name of this." And I remember my brother is always, the tougher guy, and I remember he went to the bathroom 7 times during the movie, and I was like, "Oh God, what's wrong with Mike?" And
he was terrified.
Yeah, but that was his way of he would just excuse himself to not to play it cool, to not say he was scared. But every time I didn't think anything of it in the theater. But then I had gotten for my birthday that year or something like that, a poster, and the poster, you won't know this scene because you haven't seen it, but the T-Rex has the Jeep flipped over, and it's the part where he's pulling the tire off with his mouth. And I had it on the book.
I read that scene. I read
that scene. But anyway, but I had it, and I remember my mom was like, "I think we're gonna have to take it down. Mike's too embarrassed, but it scares him at night." Scares him. And so we had to put it behind the shelves where I would put stuff on the shelves or whatever. And then that was the year when I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try and read the book because I love this movie so much, even though." I acknowledge it was scary. I'm not not afraid of scary movies. It was intense, and I especially for me when I was a kid. I feel like the Dilophosaurus was it was a Dilophosaurus and the raptor. The raptors when they poke the head out next to Muldoon, and I'm just and that part scared me even for years and years. But I loved it. I tried to read it when I was a kid. I do read this book. This is the book I read most in my life. I'm not usually a repeat reader of books. I've been starting that journey since COVID began because I've been trying to reread some of my favorites. But Jurassic Park, I do read probably every 7 or 8 years because I'll go back and enough time will come. And also a movie comes out every so often around that time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to rewatch. And it's just one of those things where I do always forget how the book unfolds because the movie is narratively very different in terms of it. They're both, for me, they're both fantastic, but it's one of those rare occasions where they're both fantastic separately. And it's the movie pulled out this story out of this book and made its own thing that is still similar, but really not in a way where if you were going for beat, it feels it's very rewarding. It's almost this is another a sequel or so, or not even a sequel in terms of progressive, but it's a remake, a whole nother universe. Right. If they ever remade it, they would probably stick closer to this because there's a lot of characters that shockingly, one main character of this book is only in the movie for a scene in the original movie, but has now become the main antagonist or protagonist of the Jurassic World series. And he's a good guy in the book, but he's not in the movies.
Who?
Mr. B.D. Wong.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Who plays Henry Wu.
Who plays Wu. But
Wu.
Did they rewrite him not dying? Or
he doesn't die in the movie. He's only in one scene where they find out about how they fertilize the eggs. And
he's only in one scene.
Yes,
yeah,
I remember.
He's a little baby. He's a little baby.
He's so young. He's so young, and he's not in the movies again until Jurassic World. He comes back, and
he's a major character.
And all these,
Okay, get that coin, BD Wong.
Yeah. So
we love BD,
and on ANHPI month as well. Congratulations,
Mulan's very own BD Wong. I watched
it
the other day. I forgot he was a voice in it, but sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I don't want to get us off track, but I just want to insert a small note that I really want BD Wong to play the wizard in the Wicked movie.
I'd love that.
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. Please keep going.
I am a big BD Wong fan here. Always have been because I was always that's the guy from Jurassic Park. You know who else is not really? I mean, I guess we can save it for when we get there. But the lawyer is not a good guy, really.
That's what I told them
the
actually
movie.
before we
Yeah.
started
I mean,
recording.
And he
never
has one
really
of the
got a
most
good
famous
vibe from
deaths
him.
in the entire franchise. Like
He sure does.
He dies in the movie?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's a dick.
Spoiler.
Here's the part too, you guys. Just so you know, the sequel book. Do you want to guess who the main character of the second book is?
Oh, okay. So I went to the Wikipedia page because I wanted to know who came back, and it was like, can I?
Yeah, you can say it. Right?
Go for it.
It was like Ian Malcolm didn't really die, and I was like,
I know it's the biggest. Like as an adult
It's
reading,
bullshit.
she froze at just the right time for me.
that was not a freeze.
You were that upset. You were just like
that was me.
Mentally frozen, emotionally
perfect.
frozen.
No, but yeah, it's crazy because when I finally did read it and like comprehend everything I read, I got to the end and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what? How? I was like, because I knew.
Such a
I remember
cop-out.
when I was a
hate when they
kid,
do
I
that.
listened to the audio version of The Lost World before I saw the movie because I was like, it had come out like right before, and I was like, I'm going to be too scared in this one because there's no fences, no dinosaur, like it's on a different island. I don't know what to, also, obviously the book ends different than the movie because Jurassic World takes place on the island from this book, but as the book ends, we'll get into it. But anyway,
Okay.
It's crazy. There's a lot of crazy, weird little things like that are different enough that you're like, what? Like John Hammond is in the second movie too. So, so there's a lot of like scenes that carry through into other movies and stuff. But anyway, I'm just trying to say I love it. And I actually would love to get a tattoo someday too. So I'm on that inspiration hunt with it because I was like in my life, like, I just think this is a book where like, if you haven't read it and you even remotely enjoy the movie, I think this book is like a great read. So
Yeah, totally. Or even just like, well, yeah, we'll get into
sorry,
it.
Allie,
How
I've
we
talked for like 25 minutes. You should.
Allie,
Okay.
yes,
Oh.
it's your turn. Tell us what you know about Jurassic Park and how you felt with this book.
I am not 100% sure why I've never seen the movie. There's something weird about me as a human being that like a lot of big like cultural touchstones.
Yeah.
I'm just like
Just go
notorious
by.
for having never seen them or experienced them, and I don't know why. Like I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like I've never seen Back to the Future. Like I've never seen Ghostbusters. I've never seen Jurassic Park. So, anyways, so I know I'm culturally impoverished, I guess is the way to say it.
And I'm stuck
like-
back there. Like I don't watch any new shit. I'm stuck back in that.
Future area. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
I don't know what's wrong with me. So I didn't have really. I knew that like Newman from Seinfeld was in the movie, but I've also never
He
seen
is.
Seinfeld. I think I've seen like one. So I don't know
You're
why I'm like, oh yeah, Newman.
Jurassic Park
and-
starring Newman.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so
Practically.
so I didn't have a lot of background, and this is definitely not a genre that I would typically read. But I was excited to read it, and I enjoyed reading it. I'm glad that we chose this one because it definitely got me out of what I would normally be reading.
It's funny you
And,
guys keep saying it's science, like you keep describing it as science fiction, and I don't ever think about it as science fiction.
Well,
but
let's-
you're technically right. Like,
Yeah, they are right.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
same thing. When RJ said that, I was like, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess it is.
yeah,
science
I was like,
fiction.
yeah, I mean, I guess we can't make dinosaurs yet. Can
Yeah.
we? I don't know.
But it was also I will say my feelings as I was reading it was that there were so many parts that I wished that we were live reading it so that I could make my jokes as I was reading it, because I was like, man, it's too bad I don't have
An
an
audience.
audience.
Yeah. I'll be doing
As I
a
read.
12-hour live reading.
Like, why don't I have an audience
Literally
for this?
a 12 hour.
So,
Well, yeah.
and I would have had so many comments about any word that came out of Lex's mouth the entire
Oh,
time.
girl.
So
I can't even. We'll get right into. We'll
We'll
get
get
into
there.
that.
We'll get there.
So I do want to start off with just the conversation of like science fiction. This was my first time reading kind of like a really a science fiction novel, and I wanted to just kind of like pose the question of what does make a good science fiction writing, and like how this book specifically was really successful. And I think for me, I'm a child of like theater and movies too, and like I really like being very much like slice of life, like just literally cut me into exactly where this is happening in whatever. And I think like that kind of same thought, that like specificity and like detail is so important when it comes to like writing. I mean, essentially it's like just world building, right? Like you just have to make a infallible world building like setup for your book to make it possible.
You know that he was only gonna not. I mean, you say world building, but I'm saying in terms of this becoming like one of the biggest franchises in movie history, is that he was only going to write this one book. Yeah. He didn't want to write.
He's only got that vibe when
I why killed Ian Malcolm. That's why I killed Malcolm.
Spielberg was the one who went to him and like repeatedly asked him to write another one because he wanted to make another movie. But he wanted the source material. Vibe.
Like it because there was so much detail that went into like kind of this one insular story.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's like the little. I was gonna say the little like before you even get. It's like the prologue or like the part where it's the Roman numerals on top. Like about like the doctors and what they do and just casual like throwaway stuff. But honestly, I know a lot of like when they refer to other paleontologists and things like that. Those are like real people. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I remember looking it up once and being like kind of fascinated that he did that thing where he like weaved in real stuff. But Michael Crichton, I guess, was kind of known for he has passed, but was known for being very because I think the Andromeda Strain was like a really big book for him, and that was very read that one. There was that, and there was another. It was a lot of like medical related ones, and he was very like in depth with that sort of research. So it kind of makes you feel smarter while you're reading.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
He created an ER.
Yes, he did. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Michael
Crichton. It's because the Andromeda Strain and like whatever. There was another one like Heat something with like heat in the title. So he had done all these ones, and that's why he was like, "Oh, I'll do a medical show." It's crazy.
Yeah, and to me, exactly what Rhino was talking about is why I don't necessarily look at it as science fiction, because there's so much detail with those pieces of real life in it. And it's like it's enough that I'm like, oh, we're almost there. Like all the biotech information and all that kind of stuff. I'm like talking this about is barely beyond reality, you know?
It's like how he describes those things too. Is just like how we describe, just like if we're reporting something,
Yeah, it's like not off the cuff. It was kind of like enough detail about it. Although I will say the one part where he's describing the touchscreen, I was like, maybe if you hadn't gone into this much detail about how a touchscreen works, which is not how they currently work.
I know, but it was so funny. Even when Tim was like, oh, it's a touchscreen.
Yeah.
I have not seen one before.
Right.
But I don't remember when this came out. Was it like 1990 or something like that? Because the movie, 1990. So it means he was writing it in the 80s. Because I mean, like it kind of borderline is saying that's the part that's kind of fascinating to me, is that even when he sets the dates in the books, it still doesn't feel outdated. Like it still feels. I think that's why the movie also succeeds, because the movie even more so doesn't really nail down a time. I mean, you'll look at the computers they're typing on and maybe that'll feel a little more dated, but like it's one of those where like it's all the stuff is believable enough that we just immediately we do accept it, and we can look past those sort of reaches in terms of technological developments and things like that to be able to really get to the core story, which in this terms feels like a sort of a horror thriller. I mean, a cautionary tale about what, Malcolm says it in the movie, your scientists, were so preoccupied whether they could, you didn't stop to think whether you should. And that's and that really is essentially what Jurassic Park and science fiction as a whole has really been since like the 50s. It's always been like that kind of fear of like, either it's like fear of invasion from outside forces. Will man reach beyond its reach without understanding the consequences of what it's doing and things like that?
Right.
I mean,
will man destroy itself?
Well, we're at that crossroad right now. I feel like you look at someone like Elon Musk and you're like, why aren't you doing more to help the world? Like,
Hammond could be a Bezos, could be a Musk. Like, it was
truly
he is
like Walt Disney. You know that, right? Like that's he was written to be. I know they say it in the book, but Steven Spielberg was even like the design. Steven Spielberg went even further and was like, that's who it's supposed to really be, is Walt Disney. But like that, he does mention Walt Disney in here. But I agree with you. It's more in line in modern day. I would say it's definitely like a Bezos, a sort of a major capitalist, like
Right.
wants to be a charmer, but you can kind of see that weird snaky kind of thing underneath.
Right.
You know?
It's Elon Musk. It's like John Hammond could host SNL and be like, "Oh, what a fun guy."
Yeah.
I feel like the Hammond of the movie, though, which obviously you guys have not met yet, but the Hammond of the movie is more Walt Disney to me than the Hammond of the book. The Hammond of the book is a little more sinister.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He has a more sinister undertone. Like, he's a little more self-aware of what he's doing and how maybe he shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. And then in the movie, he's more of an idealist and he's more of like a dreamer.
Well, I love that story in the movie about the flea circus, where it was all where he talks about where he's like he legitimately was like, I wanted to make entertainment for people. That's really was about, and it wasn't about really anything more than that. And
he's Barnum.
It's about power.
The elephant in the book.
Well, yeah, technically he is Barnum.
But the elephant in the book, again, has a sinister undertone because it's like what people didn't know is that this elephant was constantly sick, that this elephant was like evil, like, you know, but the elephant was real in the book as opposed to the flea circus, which was fake. Yeah, Laura
you're right.
Dern's character points out, it's an illusion. But
that's my favorite
again,
part of the movie.
It is. It's a great moment. But that's the whole thing is like that Hammond is a little delusional, but like idealistically.
Yeah.
I think as long as we're talking about Hammond, one of my notes was that the raptors were the anti-heroes we deserved, but Hammond was the anti-hero that we got.
Well, it's funny that you're saying that because that is the hero of the movie. So
the raptors are?
Yeah, sort of. They're not really.
I
mean,
really
no,
the T-Rex.
Animals.
The T-Rex, really.
Well, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking about it backwards. You're right.
Yeah, the T-Rex is really the hero of the movie,
and twice in multiple movies, actually. Yeah.
That's true.
It's almost like very like King Kong, almost.
Yeah, it's a King Kong scenario where it's like one animal just kind of swoops in at the right time, where it's like, and you're like, I know they're not really saving those people, but.
Well, it's just, that idea that like, like with Hammond, it's like what he wants of like. Even when, when Wu was like, well, we can't make them exactly like how they were. We have to like dilute the genetics so that they're more, so they're more like docile. They don't have and he's like, no, that defeats the purpose. I want them to be as real as possible because people don't want to see like a watered down version of
and then
a
it's
dangerous.
Like, but then it's like, what is real? We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That was like,
come to find out,
I really love that
feathers,
part.
You know?
Well, that's that. I love when they in Jurassic World they bring that up where they say that's how they kind of correct where they're like, you know, most of these dinosaurs probably would have had feathers on them by now, but you wanted it to look like what you think a dinosaur looks like, and that's where they get into the genetic melding of different dinosaurs together, and then it leads to what happens in the second Jurassic World movie, which was probably the worst of all the Jurassic World movies, but inevitably would have led to where it was going. Anyways, I don't want to spoil it because that one, legitimately, some people might not have seen it yet. But I
haven't seen that one. I still haven't.
It's
seen
awful.
The second
it is
one.
awful. It's like two movies in one, and the second part of the movie, I just want to let you know, it's like a haunted house with raptors in it. Just so you brace yourself for how awful you think it could be.
No freezers, no raptors in the freezers.
It tries to be that. It tries to be the raptor in the freezer thing, but it's not. It doesn't.
Well, that was iconic. The raptor in the kitchen scene is truly one of an amazing piece of cinema.
Yeah,
I've seen like clips of that. And I was like waiting for when that was happening of like, okay, I know at some point these two kids are like hiding underneath like a cold steel table.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how like if you've seen the movie so many times and then reading the book, it's like it immediately starts to blend away. Like then I'll be like, oh wait, which was in what? And now which was the book? Which is where I'm already literally just finished reading, and I'm like, I remember all the beginning stuff so well, but it's like. Once it gets into it, I'm like, I remember the guts in the book spilling out when he gets cut on the roof and like all the intestines. And I was like, oh dear God. Like I didn't, like, I don't know. That's it's also.
When he was like, give me my intestines back. I need those.
It's like, and you're like when he was describing like feeling it, like those are my intestines.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, but I need those. I also think that like if Hammond is Elon Musk, then Dr. Wu is Elizabeth Holmes.
It's definitely that same energy. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I did feel for Dr. Wu. Like I really
I did
wanted,
too. I did too. But
and I think what I think goes back to the whole Hammond like being more sinister in the book is that at the end when he was like, walking on his own, taking the walk of, and he was fully just like, oh yeah, it's Wu's fault. He was never qualified. Blah blah.
He's
blah,
thinking
blah, blah.
about how to pin it on somebody else. And you're
and I
He's
was just
already
like,
justifying
okay.
his own behavior. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, which is literally like what sociopaths
I like the
do,
full
so.
circle. I like that full circle though too. How it's like the thing that started the book, like on the beach, is like what took. It was the Compsognathus, right?
Yes,
It was the
yes.
and they're
him at the end.
Yeah, I love that kind of that like come back
It's a
around
full
to that
circle
sort
moment.
of thing.
Yeah,
it was really good.
It's a callback.
Yeah, it was one of those where I was like, oh, I forgot about this. Like that, this is how it goes down because that scene with the girl when the things eat her. That's the opening of the second movie.
Right.
So it's like but it
and
has.
There's no compies pulling flesh off of a newborn baby.
Oh, babies! I know. When I read that, I was like, oh.
But what is really interesting is the opening scene of this book where it's like the guy all sliced on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
We see that's the opening scene of the movie is how that happens. We don't see him get brought anywhere because I don't think he came out of that cage. But
oh no, I don't think so either.
But I always think it's kind of like if you're someone who is tiptoeing into reading it, it's like you're seeing the other half of the other part of that story. So it's really fascinating. And like that's why I think you guys should watch it as soon as you can.
You will really
only
like
because
it.
like you'll have that fun like play with being like,
connecting the dots.
Yeah, and if you let too much time go by, you'll miss that like a little things like that are a lot of fun. So
I will say at the top, I had to kind of like write down the characters a little bit, and luckily Spark Notes has a character list that describes all of them, even Cruz and Gutierrez who appear like in one scene, and I was like, because I literally was like, okay. He's putting so much detail into the fact that they find the specimen, who looks at these specimens, sending it over to where. So
and
I literally
they're
were
gonna
like
be a
writing
character.
notes of like, okay, so these are paleontologists. These are like doctors, yeah. And I was like, okay, this is from the museum. I was like, okay. Try. And then by the time they're in the island, they're like, oh, we never hear of them.
They don't matter.
Yeah, and you're like, no need. They're never gonna come. But what I do love is actually how that kind of does pay off with like Grant answering the phone inside of after the I can't remember the guy from the EPA. Is that it?
Yes, Morris.
Yeah, where he's leaving and like it's that doctor calling him, and I was like, ooh, like I love when a story kind of plays out.
Those near misses.
Yeah, and I was always like,
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of near misses, I felt like that I couldn't tell if I was over it or if I was just frustrated at this point of the story. But the fact that it was always like, oh, well, that'll never happen. And then literally the next paragraph is that happening to another person.
Yeah, and then Ian Malcolm waking up from his coma being like, I told you. Like that.
I mean, that is very on brand for Ian Malcolm though. Yeah. Like it really truly is.
He loves to be the I told you so guy. I kind of like
fell for the whole Malcolm. I was like eating up all the chaos theory stuff. I was eating up all the philosophical covers, like things that he was saying. Great. I was like,
he's very bitter in the next one. Very bitter.
It is funny to be
dead.
It's super philosophical.
It's literally like the whole opening paragraph of the second one is like he was pronounced dead at the first hospital he was brought to in Costa Rica. And I'm like, who would bring the body to another hospital
to verify? Hi, we got to double check. Can you make sure?
Well, the part where it loses me, and I love this book, like 5 stars again, but the part that loses me is at the end when we have to deal with those raptor nests. I'm like, why? We're done with this book.
Yeah, it did kind of like drive down the momentum.
It feels like they just tacked it onto the end, and it didn't really make sense.
Because I was struggling to like read through. I'm like, okay, why are we slow? We've slowed down the pace so much.
Yeah. When we listened to the book on our drive to Texas, because I asked my partner, like, hey, do you mind if we listen to this? And I told her I was like, there's a lot of the same characters, but I was like, all the stuff that happens in the movie is in the book, but not everything that happens in the book is in the movie. And she was like, okay. And then when it got to that part, I was like, I literally forgot this part even existed. Like I had no recollection of that part whatsoever. But they don't talk about Malcolm being dead till after it, so I clearly read it.
Yeah.
So, because then when I opened Jurassic or Lost World, I was like, what?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
because Grant has that weird outburst that's like, we're cleaning up your mess, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude,
Just leave.
no one's making you do this.
Right. Just
What are you doing? What? And then when they told Gennaro, they were like, you have to go down there too. I was like, does he though?
Yeah, it was so very much like bringing a kid in his ears to be like, look what you did.
Yeah.
Which, like, I do understand. Like, I think there is a sense of like the story does need to like pin it on someone has to take the brunt of like literally the trauma that everyone has to go through. So, and I did kind of like see it coming to like, I bet it's going to be the lawyer, because it's like, it's the whole idea of like, well, I'm just about, what's on contracts and what's on numbers or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's bringing that person into it to see it.
It's an Eichmann in Jerusalem moment. Is that reference lost on you all?
Like from the Bible?
That's what I assumed.
He was a guy. He was a Nazi who essentially
Not from
was
the Bible.
like no. He was like a pencil pusher. Like he you know what I'm saying? And so there was this whole thing about his trial.
Yeah.
Just following
philosopher,
orders.
The philosopher Hannah Arendt did like a whole book. I'm sorry, I'm being an Ian Malcolm right now.
It's very like exactly. It's like at that point, like, what is the morality? It's the morality issue, like of like
right. Of following orders, of doing, and for him, I mean, it's a little less. I think it's easier to blame Gennaro than it is to blame somebody who is working for someone, because he's working for him, but this was closer to a choice. And I mean, it does kind of outline in the beginning, if I remember correctly, that he did feel obligated to take care of this, right? It wasn't like he was like, woohoo, money, money, money. Like he did feel like, like he left his kid's birthday or something. Like I read it a while back, so I don't remember, because I read it literally the day after we said we were going to read it. But
just so excited.
I literally loved it. Well, and it didn't hurt that I had a 16-hour car drive, so but yeah, so I feel like it's a little bit easier to pin it on him, but at the same time, it is the whole just following orders thing to some extent.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting theme throughout the entire book, where there were a couple moments when I was like, okay, but why is Arnold still working for him, Hammond? Why is Muldoon
it's like Arnold and Muldoon,
like
those two
so many, where it was like, no one's making you stay here.
I don't know. I have a job that sometimes I'm like, why do I still work here?
Well,
to be rude. God, I hope nobody listens to it.
Are you
Maybe
cloning?
I feel bad about saying that.
Are you cloning extinct dinosaur DNA?
No.
Not yet.
A little bit different. I mean, I don't know. But it's one of those things where I just think it's an interesting thing to think about, where like with a lot of these people, it was like, no one's holding a gun to your head. Like, like you can walk away from this.
Well, I'm sure there's some level of self-righteousness, like some level of conceitedness.
That's
like,
the thing.
I'm part of this cool, new, amazing thing
like
that nobody's ever done before.
That was the vibe from like everyone that was working for him. It was like, I get to work, because that's the thing, like he even went on like paragraphs to like explain like how this person, like with Wu, like where Wu came from right before getting the call to work on this. So you get the feeling of the stakes of like, oh, this is either like the first thing that they're gonna do that's gonna be great, or like or if you're like a Muldoon, where it's like, this is your job, this is what you do, and this so well that you've been kind of like scouted in that way. So yeah, Isla Nublar, my God, as someone Isla.
Yeah,
I
think they say Isla in the movie.
As someone who has worked in a theme park, I hated every single thing that they were saying, because like in my mind I was like, this is operationally not safe. Like
Well,
there
remember,
is no
it's
way.
the 80s still, technically,
That's
early
true.
90s.
That's
And
important.
that was before OSHA was involved in anything that like Disney or theme parks was
Literally.
doing. So
I
yeah.
was like, this project wouldn't even be. I don't know. It was just every time I would hear about like the actual construction and like the running of it, the fact that there were only like 20 people that work in this entire thing, like,
Yeah.
and everyone is, it's all computer. Like, I was like, this is.
Well, it's crazy
bad.
because in the movie, I think it's even less. In the movie, there's a reason why nobody's there. There's like a hurricane that's like
Storm.
coming through, and so
Ah.
but so they're like all leaving. So you're like, why isn't anybody here? But he does say how automated it's become. But also, it's
Right.
like, remember in the beginning, he's basically forced to have them there
Yes.
before it's done. So it's like it isn't actually functional yet, really. So
Yeah.
that's why it's like the weird, like, I feel like that's
These are
part of it
previews.
too. Yeah.
Yes, it's a preview. I do love the absolute power move of like, well, we just need to get your input on a couple of things just to make sure that the work is right. And then you bring them there and you're like, surprise, you have to buy off and approve this entire park before it opens.
Yeah.
I would be so mad. I'd be like, I'm doing what? And then that's like the first time you're actually hearing about what your work has gone into. Like, you have been doing what with my research?
Speaking of that, I love the moment. This is going way back, but I love the moment where Morris is talking to Grant and he says, so you got paid all this money to do some contract work for them. Like, what did you do? And he was like, it was really weird. He kept calling me, asking me what a baby raptor would eat.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what could he do with the information that you gave him? And he's like, feed a baby raptor?
Probably feed a baby
Yeah.
dinosaur. You're like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That was
I
like
love
the
that
best
whole moment.
That I think
It's-
like that made me chuckle a lot. That happening all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time of like, it can't be dinosaurs.
Well, it's
can
funny.
it?
It's funny because we are reading this now in the context with some of us having seen it, but also the movie exists and you've
Yes.
seen clips of the movie. And like I try to put myself into like, okay, it's 1990 and I've just randomly picked this up at a Walden
Yes.
Books.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what am
Mhm.
I like? And I'm sitting down and I'm like, is this movie really about a dinosaur theme park? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
you gotta like.
That's
I
true.
feel like there wasn't like that. So that's part of it. Why I try to be like, okay,
Yeah.
that feels
Yeah.
like such a cheeky comment,
But
but at
it-
the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it is one of those. I read a book once based on a cover alone. It had a Tyrannosaurus Rex cover very similar to this, and it was called like Tyrannosaurus Canyon or something like that, or something. And I thought, oh, this will be fun, like a kind of play on Jurassic Park, where it's like the whole thing is they found like a perfectly preserved T-Rex. Like it has like muscle tissue in it and everything like that, and it's really about just like mob people trying to get dinosaur bones. And I was like, why was I tricked into this book?
Right.
But that's what I think,
Well-
where I was like, what if that was like what it was like for somebody back then, and they're like, wait a minute,
Right.
dinosaurs
The reason
are
that
real?
Right. The reason that I love that moment, though, honestly, is to picture Gennaro at 3 a.m. with a screaming baby raptor,
Like
calling Grant, exactly, cradling it in his arms. Like,
What do I do?
And they go into the nursery, and he's like, "Help!" Like,
It's not
he's like,
latching.
"Why are
It's
you
not
calling me?"
latching.
That's exactly the moment
Yeah.
that I'm picturing.
Yeah.
And I love every second of it.
I will say to that point, I do think it took me a little bit longer to get into it because like I knew the basic conceit behind the book.
Yeah.
Like I knew what it was leading up to. So I felt like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, they have like let's get to the
We get
island.
it.
Like
Yeah.
let the chaos begin. I know what's gonna happen. So yeah, I think it, I
can see
wish
that,
that
yeah.
but I mean, like I said, eventually I got into it and I was like, oh yeah, it's fucking
I also like
dinosaurs.
the woman.
Yeah.
I also like the woman who walks into the scientist lab and is like,
Me
get her the picture of the dinosaur. And
Oh,
he's like,
yeah.
that's not a
Well, she's
dinosaur,
just
it's
like-
a lizard. She's like, no, that's
Oh
a
yeah,
dinosaur.
yes,
It was
yes.
so funny because they were
That's
just
a
like,
dinosaur, you idiot.
she's just like a technician or whatever, but
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
honestly have been like
Or like-
a secretary that's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
my kids drew a dinosaur like that too, and they're like,
Right.
what does she know? Women,
Yeah,
huh?
women don't know anything. This is why
Right.
she's only in the typing pool.
Right.
That
And
is
then
the
they're
one
like,
thing.
"Do you
Figure
want to
it out.
figure it out?" And then she figures it out.
And she
That's the
figures it
best
out.
part,
She's like,
too.
"Oh,
They're
it's a
like,
dinosaur." That is the
I
one thing
also-
that I
Jerk to
will
everybody.
say. The women stuff was very much okay. This is a man in the 80s wrote this. I have a
But
really
she was right. but she was right.
She was right.
She was right.
So
I do
maybe
respect.
it was like a quip.
I do respect her for being like, you know what? I'm going to tell them anyway. I'm calling my paleontologist friend, and I'm letting him know. I don't care what they say.
This guy's going to talk to me like that. I'm going to prove him wrong.
I'm blowing the whistle
myself. Blowing the whistle.
We need more. What was her name? Alice. We need more Alices in the world.
Yeah. Blow that whistle, girl.
Is Alice really the true hero of this story? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Somewhere right now in Tesla, there is an Alice waiting to call a paleontologist.
The little girl who they all said lied too.
I will say,
listen
Christina.
to your kids.
Yes.
Christina. Yes.
And
but
I like how the doctor was like, no, she's a child.
But she was my favorite part was Christina being like, oh yeah, it was about like 3 feet 2 inches. It had about give super specific details.
Here's the correct anatomical drawing where you can see the dorsal end of the.
I've done a rough charcoal sketch with the sunset behind it, if you won't mind. You know,
and the other thing is though, that's kind of bullshit. Is the doctor's like, she's just a kid. But then behind closed doors, the doctor's like, let me go check out this beach.
Yeah, let me go get my tranquilizer gun and check out to make sure that she wasn't and I'll sit out here for 8 hours and wait too. Yeah.
Just to prove the kid wrong.
Just to prove the kid wrong.
He wanted
I'll show this stupid kid.
He thought
this kid whose face was eaten off.
Well, that was it. Right. He was trying to steal her. He was trying to steal for the credit, I think is really what it was. He was like, oh, that's already exists. Don't mind me. I've got a call. I've got to go.
Boo. Boo. Men in the academic field. That's boo. True. Do better.
Boo.
I mean, well, when Allie, what you were saying of like trying to put yourself in that place, I definitely felt like, I knew about the theme park thing, but like if I was reading it, like I felt like my initial reactions were like, they're just like breeding them to like bring them back. And I felt it was more like sinister than anything. But I think like that, that first scene of just explaining like how far we've come in genetic like manipulation or whatever, that I almost feel like it was just like, okay, this is just kind of like a trophy situation, like just to be like, look, we've brought dinosaurs back.
Well, it's also really fascinating too, because I feel like DNA up to this point wasn't really like a common, I think we as people, like us all in here, because we're younger, is like, we're
younger.
So much. Some of us in this chat are younger. Some of us are older.
No, I think we're all in our 30s. Are we all in our 30s now?
Loosely.
We're playing fast and loose
ground.
with 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Calm down. Getting started.
Yeah.
Just getting
Everyone calm down. But it's interesting because I always think like, I remember being in like, I don't know, it was like 5th grade or something like that. And I remember they were talking about like strides they had made in like the Human Genome Project, and I was like, what the hell is that? Like stuff that's like for us is a very common vernacular now, where like I feel like we've learned, like I guess it's because like there's a lot of like those murder mysteries where like you read all the time about new DNA results and things like that, and that wasn't a thing. Like it wasn't really. I feel like at 1990 they're not doing like DNA, or they're at least starting to, because
now we can spit in a tube and
now I know about everybody that's related to me across from all over the world. But it's like I think he even says it in the beginning of the book, though. He talks about something where he was like the mapping of the genetic project when it started or something like that in the 60s maybe, but it's officially done. It was recently all mapped, I believe, right? Isn't that like within this year? Something just happened with that? They like officially finished mapping the entire human genome?
I would have to Google that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it confidently and let the internet rip me apart.
And let the internet tell me if I'm wrong or not.
They'll take care of it. Everyone's a scientist on the internet.
I said I wasn't going to bring this up.
Do it. Say her name.
Rhino, you weren't on this text, but very early on in the book, there's a glaring mathematical error. And I was really upset about it because I felt like
there's a spelling error in my book, and it stressed me out.
Is there really? Okay.
It said man, and they meant than. It was supposed to be THAN, and they wrote MAN. And I was like, there's no way this word makes sense in this sentence. But anyway, that was my frustration. But what's the mathematical error?
Okay, so they're talking, it's in the chapter skeleton. In my ebook, it's on page 46. I don't know if it's the same in the physical
It's
book.
like around there, I think. Yeah.
But he says that there would be one predatory carnivore for every 400 herbivores.
Oh, yeah. And he said something about 25 T-Rex, right?
Yeah, he said a herd of 10,000 duckbills would support only 25 tyrannosaurs. And it would be it would be 250, not 25. And it just bothered me because the amount of research that he had to have done to put this book together and the technical knowledge. And then literally this is like math. Such basic math that like even me who's like doesn't think about math on a daily basis, that I read that and immediately got out a calculator and was like, this can't be right.
So
maybe
that's
the point, isn't it? Right?
Right. I was like, that's what I was going to say. I just had this thought. Maybe it was intentional. I don't know which character says that, but it's spoken. It's Grant, and it's spoken. So, it's Grant. Okay, well, yeah, I feel less excited. It's Grant. I was like, if it was somebody from the park, I was like, maybe that's the point. Like this whole idea of building on the knowledge of others without gaining it for yourself. Yeah. But no, if it was Grant, it was a fuck up.
It was Grant.
Yeah, I'm like literally, I'm trying to find it in my book because I'm like right around it.
Is it not 46?
No, well, that's what 46 is where skeleton begins. But it talks about, he like says it somewhere after 400 herbivores. Okay, they expected predators to be rare. Of course, studies of predator prey populations in the game parks of Africa and India suggested that, roughly speaking, there was one predatory carnivore for every 400 herbivores. That meant a herd of 10,000 duckbills could support only 25 Tyrannosaurus. So he must have meant 1,000 or 250. You're right. Like
right. One or the other.
Yeah, one or the other. It got mixed up in there.
And the other thing about it is that it's not even the digits. You know what I'm saying? It's all actually written out. Yeah. So it's not like it was like 10,000 and it was just an extra zero. He actually wrote out 10,000
and 25 hyphenated. Mm-hmm. That's interesting because I actually thought, I was like, I remember reading that sentence and being like, something feels weird here. But I was thinking maybe it was because he had said, because it was comparing like Tyrannosaurus, how much they eat versus like the Compsognathus. But you're right, he doesn't even say it's to that. He's literally just talking about predator prey populations in Africa.
Right.
And I feel like, you know what? The spelling mistake is right in that chapter too.
So you know what? For anybody that loves this book, I need to ruin it for you because it's factually inaccurate.
The science doesn't add up. Well, I think like other big reactions that we all had was our favorite character in this entire book. Miss Lex should have stayed home. Let's just say that.
She should have stayed home. They should have thrown her in the river.
And understanding also, like Catherine told us that the way Lex and Tim are written in the movie is a lot more different.
Yeah, much more.
In this book, Lex, it's as if Michael Crichton was like, how do little girls act? Done. And that's literally all she does. She's
also not very smart in this, right? It's like
she's not.
She's not very smart, but then we'll tell the dinosaurs, like, those dinosaurs are dumb because they are not looking at they don't see me right now.
Dinosaur.
It's funny because in the movie
it made me so mad every time she spoke. I literally was like, if I was Tim, I literally would be like, you are not allowed to speak anymore.
It's funny
until we're out of this island because I am literally about to die. We are dying.
Spielberg mixed it up in the movie. Like they're flipped ages too. So like Tim is younger, she's older, but she's a hacker, and that's her big thing. Is that she's a hacker? You know, with computers, like it's a big thing. And
with computers,
that's what she said.
Brother is
that's
like obsessed with the dinosaurs. So it's like they're both kind of. And Grant hates kids, so it's like it's a little bit more of an interesting dynamic between them because they get stuck with him.
I really liked the Grant Tim relationship.
I did too. It gets there in the book. It gets there in the movie. You'll be happy in the movie when it gets there. But he is literally so adverse to them. It's like Ellie that kind of messes with him and gets him stuck with the kids by accident.
Okay, I have to say, I think the most unrealistic part of the book is not them bringing back extinct dinosaurs to life.
It's the dinosaur
It's that
tracking them underwater.
it's that no one ever said the words "shut the fuck up, Lex."
Fact. Absolutely.
In this time of rage and fury, no one hit that child.
No one stopped
Nobody
her.
hit that kid.
Yeah.
I can't. I
was
can't.
like-
What happened? What's the shit with the boat? What was the shit that happened with the boat? Because I remember when that moment happened, I remember being like, oh my God, if they don't just fucking throw her
They
off
were
this
Throw her
damn
they
to the
were
raft.
T-Rex
fighting
in the water.
Weren't they fighting for the
With the
radio
the
or no the
pterodactyl
raft
or something,
the
right?
raft.
They were in the raft, and I think she was like, "Why aren't you going faster?" or something like that.
Oh my God.
And she was also the moment that the book jumped the shark for me was when she went nya 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 at a dinosaur.
I guess you're right. It was Michael Crichton being like, "What do children do?
What do
They definitely
children
taunt
do?
lizards
Kids
like
like-
giant lizards."
What would
If
children
I
do
were a
in this
small
situation?
child, I'd go nya 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 to a dinosaur. But then let that child live in the story.
She
Like,
sure does do
Oh
that.
my
She's
God.
Like,
You would
dinosaur."
think
she
you
would have been the one to get her
think
face ripped off.
that the Tyrannosaurus
We can only
Rex flipping her car upside down would straighten this girl out. No,
Nope,
she
not Lex.
continued- She
Yeah.
continued to be annoying.
And then in the
Somehow,
river, that of
anytime
all things,
anybody-
being like,
Yeah.
it's following you. Are you stupid? I wouldn't even turn around to look at it. I would just start making peace with what life I had lived at that point.
Oh,
Even
Every
even
time anyone tells her to do anything, she completely ignores them and does whatever the
Yeah.
fuck she wants to do. And it's like, you know that you're a child. At least. At the very least, you know that you're a child. Listen to the adults.
listen to the
I don't know. I got
Yeah.
I got sisters. Sorry, ladies, but one of my sisters would probably be Lex.
I just she
I did like I did like the Tim. I definitely very much preferred Tim, obviously, but I actually liked Tim. He ended up being one of my favorite characters, I think, because I think he kind of represents that like idea of like even in like fantasy books or in like that tells the story of a hero. Like there's a kid that as a kid watching this or reading this that you're like, see, I can be smart enough that I can help, because like all kids want to do is like be an adult.
Wait till you get to the Lost World.
yeah, he's the
God, yeah.
Wait till you read the Lost World.
Well, the Lost World, yeah,
Well-
because that also there's children in both the movie and the book,
Mm.
but the book
Totally
has two
different children.
kids, and the movie has Ian's daughter is in it, and
Mm.
it's like a weird where you both
It's
just as
weird.
frustrating, but it's fine.
Well, yeah. Tim is truly the Charlie Bucket of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I see
That's
that.
Willy Wonka for those who
Especially when he talks about his dad and
layman's.
how he doesn't like his dad. How his dad's a turd.
Yes, that was I really liked that scene where all of a sudden he was just like, yeah, my dad, like my family's going through a divorce, blah blah blah. Because it's
Yeah.
that you can
My
tell
dad
that like
likes
he
Lex, and we're like, who the fuck likes Lex?
you can tell that he obviously like idolizes Grant so much, like, and I don't know, I felt I felt that was probably my favorite scene, because it was nice to take a break from the fucking dinosaurs that were trying to
Mhm.
slash everyone's guts
It's
out.
crazy reading like even those parts like with the pterodactyls or like that's all in the third movie,
Mm.
and so
Oh,
like
the aviaries part.
yeah, and I guess I think they were supposed to be in the second movie, or for like there was concept art for them, and they talked about it in like because this was back in the day when they do like the 30-minute primetime making of special about like big
Mhm.
movies like this, and they've done it through the years because Jurassic Park still is one of those movies where like if you sit down and watch it today, there is very little, if any, moments in that movie where you're like, ooh, like the CGI or anything like that. It's dumbfounding how it was made in 1993 and it looks better than a lot of movies that are made today. But
Yep.
I mean, that's the combination of the animatronics and the CGI and stuff like that. But like,
Mhm.
it's just one of those things where like, I don't know. It's just, it just gets me every time. I don't know.
Well, I want to ask the question, as the stars of the movie, the dinosaurs, what was everyone's favorite dinosaur?
I mean, in the
book.
Stegosaurus.
The Stegosaurus.
Yeah.
I mean, I like how persistent the T-Rex is. He's like committed to his goals. I wish I could be that committed.
I'm sorry, she,
excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. I always do that.
It's so funny that they even said that too. They were like, she.
Support women.
Support women. Support
Jurassic
women.
Park, a feminist
support
novel,
women.
Jurassic Park.
Support women.
Absolutely a feminist novel.
Absolutely.
You knew that the animals had to be breeding because no all-female society would break down like that.
Yeah. Shut up. Also, how expected for a woman to do twice as work of being like, well, I guess I'll just genetically mutate my sex today so I can.
I'll get it myself.
I guess I'll do it myself.
Need to take care of myself again.
Yeah, here we are.
As usual. Oh my god. I think my favorite is the Dilophosaurus.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Is that the one with
spitter.
The bitty one.
The one that
Yeah.
spit?
The Pope cake.
He's coming back in the new
Pope
movie.
cake.
That's why I'm like, ooh. There's a shot in the
I gotta
trailer
watch
where
the-
Bryce
I gotta
Dallas
watch the
Howard
second
is like face to face with it and screaming at the top of her lungs, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh
is that
yeah,
the
I've
last
seen
of it?
that.
That's why I'm
I've
like,
seen it.
that is that the end of her? I don't know.
Right.
Keep
Also,
her.
I've
Get
only
rid
seen the
of
third-
Pratt.
Right. I've only seen the third Jurassic Park movie like once, and I was like,
It's-
why am I watching this?
Here's the thing.
So
When you rewatch it, you're gonna be like, still just as bad as I remembered. It's awful.
Does not
the third
hold
one,
up.
like, it has like, I mean, I like the Spinosaurus design and stuff like that, but it is one of those movies where you're like, you talk about how like you don't like Lex. It feels like every character in that movie behaves like Lex. Yeah, it's
That's
all
Lex
very.
is the
very
blueprint.
And
accurate.
it's just Alan Grant yelling at everyone, being like, "What? I wasn't on this
Why?
island. I wasn't on this island."
What?
Because it's on Site B, and so he's like kidnapped for no reason. I guess it was like Jeff Goldblum was supposed to be in the movie, and then at the last minute couldn't do it or something. So then they got
He was like, I'm
Grant
Jeff
again,
Goldblum.
like,
Yeah, I'm done. I did like the idea of like, oh yeah, these, once we keep this up, we're gonna do like the Japan expansion. It's gonna go great. We're already
they make
getting
reference
ready
to that
for
in the second
Europe.
one.
And
Yeah,
I'm like, oh girl, this is megalomania, honey.
Delusion.
I think my favorite,
but like that could happen in real life, though, right? Like
Mhm.
that would. I mean, again, like I feel like it's like a Disney. I mean, look how many zoos there are.
yeah,
Anyway, sorry, your dinosaur.
my dinosaur. I think I would pick the T-Rex, just because of the beautiful description of how slick and strong her tongue moves.
That wet tongue.
Ah.
Why so sexual?
It was, and you know what? To Miss Michael's credit, I was like, yeah, these are the questions I would be asking if I was like.
It was the
There's got to
wet.
be some body horror.
It was the wet. Yeah, it was the wet. I mean, there was a waterfall as well.
Which was
so-
the dampness of it all.
It was the like strength of it, and then how.
Curling around, Tim.
And I also, one of my favorite scenes is when they were like, "Oh, a baby raptor. Maybe this is why they're chasing us." And then they throw the raptor and they eat the baby.
They rip it to shreds. Brutally murdering.
And they're just like, "Nope, guess that wasn't it." And they just keep running.
Good try.
Well,
We
we
tried,
tried.
everyone.
Oh my god! I will say the whole like the Velociraptor scene at the end with Grant, like taking care of all of them. It was definitely like I was like picturing that scene. I was like, okay, I can picture like he's really going for and like
In the nest or when he's killing them?
when he's killing them.
Okay.
I don't feel
Well,
like
we
he
have
really
the
has
nest.
that moment ever. I'm wondering because they're all in the new movie, so I'm wondering if that's going to come
Laura
around full
Dern is in the
circle.
new movie.
Laura
Yeah,
Dern
and
is
she
in the
looks
movie.
great.
And she has
She
not
looks
aged.
amazing.
Yeah, they've
No,
all
she
kind
looks-
of like look great. They all look better than
They
the
all
new
look
cast.
very
Jeff
sexy
Goldblum
versions
is
of
like
their
a
younger
fine
selves.
wine.
Yeah. They all look better than Bryce Dallas Howard's bad wig, okay? She wears a brutal bob. Like it is. So
That's just in the first.
harsh.
That's just in the first.
Oh,
one.
she outgrew it. Thank God.
Yeah. I think it's just her hair in the second and third one, or I don't know. I mean, the third one hasn't come out yet, but it's gonna in like 2 weeks or something like that. But I got my tickets.
Well, do we have any final feels, final takeaways, final jokes from Allie?
Oh, I mean, I'm happy to slate a couple. if you want me to.
Go for it. Absolutely. Yeah. For reactions.
Let's
see
see.
your notes. You've got a lot.
Yeah. Jurassic Park is to the early 90s as Fire Festival is to the late 2010s.
Absolutely.
What came first, Ian Malcolm in all black or Steve Jobs in all black? This one, I feel, could something like this actually work if they weren't so fucking stupid about it?
I don't know because ego. I don't know because ego.
Yeah.
Yes. We didn't talk about this at all, but Nedry is a bonkers offensive character.
Oh, yeah.
Straight out of like classic children's literature, the only character trait is fat and slobby.
That's the guy. That's the one from Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's
Newman.
Yeah,
and
Newman.
like, just like by virtue of him being fat and slobby, he's an evil character.
He's an evil character. I know.
Like, did Roald Dahl write this?
Dick. He's also a dick, but maybe is he not a dick in the book? He's only a dick in the movie.
Yeah.
No, he's a dick in the book, but it's just like any time that someone's like, they're just like, where'd the fat man go?
That's how they identify his body. That's how they identified his body. Like he was the fat one, right? Oh yeah, his guts are all over the place.
Well, I like in the movie that when like Hammond's like he turns and we see him that he works here because in the beginning he's what opens kind of the first part of the movie, and then it's like Hammond turns and he's like, "Our lives are in your hands, and you have Butterfingers." And he's got like candy wrappers and trash all over the desk and everything like that. It's a little less offensive, but it's still like clearly the same idea.
Yeah. I just two more things. One is that when they were mentioning dinosaurs, I was like, let me look this up. All of the dinosaurs looked the same to me. Not like a T-Rex. Okay, like I get how that's different. I get how like a Tyrannosaurus Rex is different, but like the body shape of so many of them was just like head. I don't know.
I mean,
yeah, it was like the raptors, velociraptors, and like the copies or whatever they're called.
The copies are like they're like this big. They're
like,
I'm like imagining
small,
they're
medium,
all,
large.
Yeah, literally small, medium, large. Yeah.
But
I just like so many of these. I also felt like in the movie, I don't know if you guys know the story of there was a drunk chef on the Titanic that survived the sinking of the Titanic.
What?
And they think it's by virtue of the fact that he was super drunk when it all happened. That's how I feel about Muldoon. That like he survived.
You'll feel differently in the movie.
I also love there's a part in the book when Ellie is like, "Shut up, you're drunk." It's just like, the comedy of it that like no one says anything to him about it throughout the whole, like he's taking swigs from a bottle of whiskey and everyone's like,
took me a while.
And then
when she said that, I was
on
like,
my way
wait.
out.
Yeah, I had to like recount like, wait, he's drunk.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He has, honestly, I mean, the line he speaks is one of the most, it's the clever girl. And that's one of the big, like, you see it on the tattoos when people get like the raptor tattoo. It's like on everything. It's one of those very famous, very scary part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Very graphic
that
part of the movie
scary.
too. It's like you can see saliva in that part.
Oh man, the part where Dr. Sattler finds Mr. Arnold's
when she's like it spins her. When I was a kid, I was like, wait, I'm so confused. That part's the Laura Dern acting in that scene where she like is screaming and then she slams the gate and she's just like
and running with that limp.
She breathes literally like that. That impersonation is spot on. I'm not even being sassy. It's like sheer panic. And it's just like,
it's amazing.
Oh yeah. When she turns around and screams in the car when the T-Rex is chasing them. And it's just like, she's so good in this movie. So good.
Really
I mean, they're all good, but she is like top notch.
Because Jeff Goldblum was just being himself. So
yeah. It was the origination of the Jeff Goldblum, like the persona I feel like he is today is like, I feel like this movie is like, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy.
Yeah.
There was that scene at the end where she like jumps into the pool where I was like, how, I kind of like lost track of like, how tall is this building? I was like, what's going on? Like she climbed up the trees and jumped on the roofs. Like, I was just like, okay, I'm just in it. You know what? I am just in
It was just a running.
I am just survival
See, stuff
mode.
like that. It was like
superhuman.
easier to be like, to read it after seeing the movie because you're like, okay, I know what the visitor center looks like. Or like, you know, I've been to Universal Studios, so I know what it looks like. But it's like one of those you're like, okay. But I will say, like the layout sometimes in the book, I'm like, how long is this roof? Like, how many buildings? And they even kind of say it in the book because they're like, well, I saw the one page, but the rest of them didn't really lay them out correctly. And I was like, I remember at the beginning being like, doesn't a guy lose his intestines on the roof somewhere? And I was like, and so it was funny, like getting through that and being like, is this a 3 mile long rooftop? Like,
there was a part when Harding, the veterinarian, he gets like slashed by a raptor, and then later he's tending to Malcolm, and no one explains. Like, I thought he died.
I thought he died too, but
I
it's
was
just
like,
like
bye,
he got
Harding.
slashed
He
by
just
like
slashed across the chest.
Yeah.
Just a casual.
It was a lot of
Just a
it
casual
was
slash.
very like this is like prime dinosaur target. I noticed.
Yeah.
Like it's right here.
Just got him.
It's like, yeah. Well, they're not in the movie, so don't worry about it. There will be no explanation for that.
Harding is like for like half a second.
He's like the gatekeeper, isn't he?
He's the vet.
No,
Harding
he's
is
the vet.
Oh, that's right. With the T-Rex when she's on the
door.
Triceratops. Yeah,
Triceratops. I kept saying Tyrannosaur. God bless. Yes.
Yeah.
That
is one big pile of shit.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, it's one of those books where like, you know, there are the ridiculous moments, but I'm like, I read it and I'm just, it's like for me having like loved this movie for so long and just like, there's just something insane. Like, I don't know that there's another book that I've ever read where somehow this is inspired. It's not just that it's like, oh, well, this inspired the movie and then there were other movies. Like, they still are pulling stuff from this book. And that's what's kind of like, it's crazy to be like how they like kind of interwoven it. But then like with all they've pulled, it's still two separate things. But they're also very enjoyable separately. Like, I don't know that happens often in like with movies to books anymore. And like in my life, I guess like there've been a couple like, you know, don't laugh at me, but Matilda, the book, and Matilda, the movie, I feel like are also two, like they're different, but they're similar, but they're like, they're both really good. The Shining is another one. The Shining is a good example where it's like
the movie is completely different, but it's very
good. The sequel
good.
Too. Yeah.
The sequel. Yeah. I just read, that's actually one of the things that I did after I read Jurassic Park, because I didn't even know about Dr. Sleep until after I read Jurassic Park. And I had read The Shining years prior and seen the movie. So that one I already knew. But I was like, oh, wow. So I read the book first and then I watched the movie. And obviously the movie is a sequel to the movie and the book is a sequel to the book. And they have to be different.
Yeah. But the movie has to be both. And that's the crazy part, because the movie is a sequel to both. And that's it like blends where but anyway, like I do think it's crazy that there's this like, it's like a rarity when this sort of thing happens. So it's not just like watch the movie and you're not going to be surprised or whatever, or excited, you know, like I think that's what'll make it even more enjoyable is like the turns it'll take because of what's going on. Like, I don't know. So again, I will plead with you, please watch it soon.
Yes, please. And then report back.
Watch it so you can watch the new one when the new one's because it's about to come out. So you'll have to watch all. I mean, I'm going to tell you, three has a talking dinosaur for a second. It's a dream. It's a dream. Alan is having a dream on a plane, and he turns and looks over, and there's a raptor, and it goes, Alan. And he snaps awake, but it is so awful. It is such an awful
Alan.
And like it is like I will never forgive it. It is terrible. Also, that movie's only like 90 minutes. They started filming it before they were done with the script, and it shows. So the other ones are longer. So it's like, but not that length has anything to do with it, but you know.
I think my overall take is yes, I will watch the movie. But this also kind of like gave me because I don't really read a lot of like thriller type books and stuff. So I think this helped me kind of like get in the mindset of like, okay, I can follow along and like not be too stressed out. Because I noticed like when I was reading, I would slow down actually in those scenes to be like, I want to try and like visualize how these dinosaurs are killing these people, so that way I can be like, oh, okay. Like I don't know, like it was like weirdly like an instinct for me to be like, let's slow down and read this slowly.
I read a lot of thrillers, and there are still some that I get to a certain point and I'm like, gotta call it, can't do this one. So I mean, the one that comes immediately to mind is Gerald's Game. Couldn't get through Gerald's Game. The movie was good, couldn't get through the book.
Yes.
But anyway, regardless, it is cool to realize that a genre that you wouldn't necessarily think you would enjoy is kind of cool. It has its place in your lexicon.
Yeah.
Oh, your lexicon?
Boo! Get her out.
Cut the feed.
All right. Well, thank you for this riveting discussion on Jurassic Park. Now, I know you're asking, RJ, what are we going to read for next month? Well, don't worry, because we will be reading Song of Spider-Man, the inside story of the most controversial musical in Broadway history by Glen Berger.
This has been on my reading list for like since it came out years ago. And I have seen Spider-Man on Broadway. I saw the show the last week when it closed. Yeah. I was one of the last people to see it. And the Spider-Man came up right into my lap.
The Spider-Man came out.
The Spider-Man came right up into my lap. So I was like,
in your lap?
I'm not even kidding you. The lady said to me when I sat down for the show, she was like, it took me 3 days of standing outside to get tickets to this show too. And the lady came up to me. She was like, okay, sir, where you're sitting, Spider-Man will be making a visit to your seat. So don't touch him. Don't reach out. And when he comes up here, please lean back in your seat. Because I was on the third floor, like third balcony, and he came from the stage straight up and landed right in front of me. And I get why she was like, lean back, because it literally like he lands and spins around, but like his ass like hit me. Like, and I was like, oh God. And like, I was like, this is how they injured all those people. But I don't think there's like availability to watch it anywhere. Like, I don't think it was ever like released to the public to watch the final product. Was it?
Was it trash? Did you like it?
It was fine. It wasn't like everyone made it out to be like it was going to be this awful thing. Like, and I was like, oh, I don't mind it. Like, I think what I saw was technologically like really interesting. But I think the problem at that point, the version, like when I had finally seen it, like the Julie Taymor's imprint that it had on it didn't make sense to the final product. So like,
that's what
there was a disconnect in terms of like what the Green Goblin looks like makes no sense at all. And like, it's like weird and that it's a little off-putting. So it was just like kind of one of those things where I was like, I think if they had put him in, like, even if they had just like borrowed a movie suit and put him in the one from the movie, it would have made the experience like way better, because that was the weird, but there was some like really cool aspects of it. Like, I don't think it deserved to be trashed as much as it did, but it also probably didn't deserve to get made in the first place. So, because I mean, how many people like have been permanently injured? But I've always wanted to read that book. I'm literally because I always was reading about it, like waiting for it to come out. And I was like, when it comes out, I'm going to go see it, because the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans 1 and 2, not 3, are like some of my favorite. Like the first movie was the reason why I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to film school because of that and Moulin Rouge. And I was like, I think I like this sort of thing. And so
I think how they said, like at the beginning of Jurassic Park, they were like, not many people made it through to say what they witnessed at Jurassic Park.
Yes.
It's like,
I think it's like the same
cast.
thing for Spider-Man. Like, not many people made it through to tell the tale of what
Oh my God.
The guy I saw was somebody who graduated from UCF too. So it was kind of weird because I was at UCF at that time while I was watching it. And I was like, an alumni in my lap.
Go Knights.
in my life.
Go Knights, yeah. Black
Go
and gold.
Knights. But yes, we are reading Song of Spider-Man, the inside story of the most controversial musical in Broadway history by Glen Berger. The true story of a theatrical dream or nightmare come true, the making of the Spider-Man musical. As you might imagine, writing a Broadway musical has its challenges, but it turns out there are challenges one can't begin to imagine when collaborating with two rock legends and a superstar director to stage the biggest, most expensive production in theater history. Renowned director Julie Taymor picked playwright Glen Berger to co-write the book for a $25 million Spider-Man musical. Together, along with U2's Bono and Edge, they would shape a work this is so funny. They would shape a work that was technically daring and emotionally profound, with a story fueled by the hero's quest for love and the villain's quest for revenge, or at least that's what they'd hope for. Bum bum bum.
Are you you should be required to like listen to the music, I think, before you.
Allie's face, just like,
yeah, I'm telling you, there's like one song. It's like basically one song, and then they just split it into like 15. That's what it feels like.
I was in the car. I went to Fringe and I saw Spider Queen at Fringe, which if you're still in the Orlando area, highly recommend Spider Queen at Fringe if you're interested in this, because that's why I want to read this book.
Want to read it.
And my friend that I went to see it with, we got in the car and he started playing the soundtrack from Spider-Man. And I was like, is this an ad? It sounds like a Fanta commercial. So
dragged. Bono dragged.
Sorry.
Well, you can.
Bono found dead in a ditch.
Bono is dead. Well, you can grab a copy of this book and join us in our next Ampliverse book club at the Ampliverse Bookshop. If you purchase a book there, it not only helps the Ampliverse, but also a local bookstore in your area. And you can visit the link right below, bookshop.org/shop/the Ampliverse. Thank you so much for watching or listening along to the Ampliverse Book Club. You can find and follow us on social media at the Ampliverse on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you love the show and the others we do here, and if you feel obliged to tip $1 or $2, give Rhino a tip for all of his hard work. You can do that on our coffee.
You're going to ask me to take my top off at this part.
Linked on this episode. Maybe not this one. Maybe in the Spider-Man.
I'll wear my Spider-Man onesie. If you'll have me on, I'll be in costume.
There you go. We'll do it. Yes, if you feel obliged to tip, you can do it on our Ko-fi linked below. It helps keep the lights on in our universe. It's Allie, Catherine, Rhino. Thank you so much for joining book club, and we'll possibly do a follow-up when we finally watch this movie.
We have to.
Bonus episode.
Here should be the rule. I think we have to commit to watching all. Well, you have to commit to watching all of them. Like all 6, like including the one in the, like it's got to be the whole saga and be like, here we go. At least the first movie, but
that can be a special.
We'll get through the first movie.
We can do that as a special.
Yeah.
We'll do the first one. We'll see where it takes us.
Yeah.
On the boat. Thanks everyone for joining our book club. We'll see you next month. Until then, read on. Goodbye.
Rawr.
Rawr. Rawr. Here's my poison spit.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.